Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So tonight we are going to do a Q&A from questions from Twitter, from a couple of different tweets in the mailbox. We're doing this because people said that they couldn't always make it to the live stream and they have questions to ask. Now, I've glanced at them, but I haven't looked through them, so you're going to get off-the-cuff answers as if it was a live stream. Why do you always use GIFs of women to express your emotions? That's what we're starting with, huh? Well, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. No, women are generally more emotive in their expressions, so they're more clear. That's why I use it, I guess. I don't know. That's probably worthy of a psychological study. Bo, on the off chance you read this, do you have any thoughts on right-wing media spreading stuff like this? Not necessarily focused on this video in particular, but rather the trend of anti-intellectualism. That's a very strong current in the United States. There's the idea that your opinion matters as much as the facts. They don't. They don't. Yeah, everybody has a right to have an opinion. Everybody has a right to say their opinion. Not every opinion has a right to be heard. A lot of people express opinions that are just irrelevant. I mean, that's a horrible thing to say, but it's true. The guy feeding you stuff on the teleprompter from Fox or any of these other networks, it is what it is. If that's how you get your information and you only trust a couple of outlets, you're only going to get part of the story. You're just going to be misinformed. So, yeah, the right-wing media does it. The left-wing media does it to some degree. They tend to be more factual, but only because their viewers are more open to new ideas and they get caught faster. I don't think it's an ethical thing. I think they've learned not to do it. Getting more and more requests to train folks in firearms. Never thought of it as a business, but it's taking a lot of my time and I'm going to have to charge. So far, safety is free, but I have to start charging for proficiency. I'm good at it. Infantry, blah, blah. There's a resume here with personal details I'm not going to say. Okay, so the rate that you're saying is what you work for normally at your shop. That's fair. That is fair. When you're talking about actual range time, that's fair. If you're doing a group, as you say that you have here, I wouldn't charge each of them that. I would maybe total double this amount and break it up. If you've got 5 people, split that up among the 5. That way it is worth your time, because a side gig like that can eventually kind of overpower your life. And you don't want to become financially dependent on doing it because you may decide that you don't want to. Do you check your Patreon messages? I do. Between, like, on Twitter, I probably get 30, 40 direct messages a day. Same for Facebook, Patreon. I try to get them done at night. It doesn't always happen. Normally on the weekends, I run through and try to get as many of them as I can. I was not prepared for this to reach this level, to be honest. I didn't expect it to blow up as quickly as it did. Do not have the infrastructure that a lot of operations on YouTube have. It's literally me, my wife, and Carrie. That's the entirety of it. Okay, so how many and which languages do you speak? Languages are perishable, so if you don't use them, you lose them. I'm passable in English, Spanish, Russian. I can get by in a few other languages, have a working knowledge in Arabic, know the basics of Chinese, little Irish, enough to get to from the airport to the hotel in a few other languages. But if you it's one of those things. There was a time when I was fluent in multiple languages, but I just don't use them as much, so I've lost it. Philosophically, politically, and economically, who are your biggest influences? Emma Goldman, Sophie Scholl, Hunter S. Thompson, Thomas Paine, Thomas Jefferson. Those were probably most influential in the beginning, and then I started branching out and getting people from other cultures. I had a lot of time to read at one point, and although not necessarily all of the militancy, I really liked the way Malcolm X thought. I liked the way he processed things, and I think I learned a lot from that. Although I tend to today agree more with the Martin Luther King strategy. Carrot and a stick, but a bigger carrot. Thank you. I am in assisted living. This looks like medical questions that my wife is answering. Please tell people there's a less sketchy way to deal with a... We're totally not talking about how to do that. What is the Apple song? My wife made a joke about the Apple song. The Apple song is something like, I was just an apple sitting on a tree until you came along and picked me. It's from a kid's toy. It's not as significant as it has been made out to be. How do you keep all of this from getting you down? Fighting a battle every day for the survival of humanity is a heavy burden when the odds are stacked against us. Well, I mean, when you say it like that, yeah, it sounds heavy. No, I enjoy the fight. I do. I enjoy being in it as much as possible. Everybody has... It's a fight that's going to happen. And everybody has skills to contribute. And I enjoy, and I'm happy that I have found my place in that. What is Nostradamus? Forgive me if you've already done a video about that. Nostradamus was a person or people who wrote a bunch of cryptic messages that were interpreted by various people to mean different things because they were incredibly vague and they could be applied to different situations, and then people could always think that they were right. Oh, I'm sorry, that says what is Q? Same thing. If you put all cops in prison and set all prisoners free, will the streets be more or less safe? If you're talking about minimum, low, most medium, yeah, you could let them out. They're not a danger to society. They made a mistake. The overwhelming majority. When you get to some of the maxes, and this isn't everybody in a max either, but when you get to some of the higher level security places, people, especially people who watch this channel, we like to believe that everybody's good, and most people are. But there are bad people out there, and there are people who will continue to wrong others. Maybe they should be separated from society in some way. I don't believe the current prison system is the way to do it, but I don't think that letting them out necessarily is a good idea either. I'm hoping I'm getting the real meaning of that question. It's not easy to discern truth from the news coming out of North Korea. What do you think is really happening, and what do you think would happen if Kim doesn't recover? I'm not worried about it. Authoritarian governments of any kind, they're based on hierarchy. There will be a successor. In some rare instances, you have infighting over who becomes the next person, but that normally doesn't spill out onto the streets. It's normally like a palace coup kind of thing, and that's fine. I would actually hope that there are some elements within his military that are less propagandized and would be more willing to come out and start engaging in the international community a little bit more. So, there you go. Will you be my dad? I already got a lot of kids. Look, I know that a lot of younger people see me as a father figure of sorts, and that's fine. It's incredibly flattering. I think there's probably better role models out there, though, to be honest. Let's see. Have you ever considered writing a book about your past experiences in rescue operations? Nice way to put that. I bet it would be fascinating. And there is a there's a nice response there. You can't tell those stories without telling how it's done, and the methods in which that kind of stuff is done hasn't changed much. And I wouldn't want to impact somebody else that's currently trying to help people, because that type of stuff does save lives. You don't normally think of it as a rescue. I prefer the term emergency relocation, but it saves lives, and I wouldn't want to undermine that. Maybe a fictional book that doesn't actually include the details, maybe that's in the future. But as far as, you know, a story that's true but the names have been changed to protect the guilty, probably not, because I don't foresee the tactics that get used being changed anytime soon. Okay, so we're already at 11 minutes. We're going to go ahead and this is definitely going to have to be 2 parts, so we're going to stop real quick and it'll come right back.